What trickery is this? Mal'Ganis! I don't know how you survived, but I
Calm
will...
yourself, Prince Arthas. I am Tichondrius. Like Mal'Ganis, I am a Dreadlord. But I am not your enemy. In truth, I've come to congratulate you.
Congratulate me?
By killing your own father and delivering this land to the Scourge, you have passed your first test. The Lich King is pleased with your enthusiasm.
Yes. I've damned everyone and everything I've ever loved in his name. And I still feel no remorse, no shame, no pity.
The rune blade you carry was forged by the Lich King and empowered to steal souls. Yours was the first one it claimed.
Then I'll make do without one. What is the Lich King's will?
The cult of the damned must be rallied once again. Many of the acolytes have been in hiding amongst the populace. Once you've rallied them, I will give you further instructions.
No one orders me around. Finally. This is more like it. Ah, at last.
Greetings, great lord. Our master, Kel'Thuzad, told us that you would come.
Kel'Thuzad? How could he have known it?
Be wary. If the townsfolk
dead
see
have
your
risen
undead
again.
units, they'll call the local
Guards.
guards to stop you.
The undead! Sound the alarm!
At last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. What is it now? Speak, fool. This is more like it. No one...
Seek out the local graveyards. Those buried there will serve you well.
Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers.
Mercy, my lord.
My life for Nezu.
Finally. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. Finally. This
How
is
could you
more
murder your own father?
I live only to serve.
at last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At
The
last.
damned stand ready.
This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. Finally. This is more like it. At last. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. What is it now? No one orders us to be around. Tread lightly. This is more like it. Speak, fool. Tread lightly. What is it now? Frostmourne hungers. No one orders me around. What is it now? Tread lightly. At last. No one orders me around. Tread lightly. Frostmourne hungers.
Must be.
No one orders me around.
My sight is yours.
Speak, fool. At last. Tread lightly. No one orders me around. This is more like it. Speak, fool. At last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. At last.
Prince Arthas, arm yourselves!
No one orders me around. Tread lightly. Speak, fool. No one orders me
No one orders me around.
Must be.
Tread lightly. No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. This is more like it.
What need
Tread
revealing?
lightly. What is it now? Finally. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Tread lightly. Speak, fool. What is it now? Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it.
You bastard.
The dead have
This
risen
is
again.
more like
The
it.
damned stand
Guards.
ready.
Finally. Ah, at last.
Mercy, my lord.
Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Frostmourne
Mercy, my
hungers.
lord.
Finally. Frostmourne
I
hungers.
live only to
The
serve.
dead have risen again. Guards.
Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers.
The undead.
Ah,
Sound
at
the
last.
alarm.
Only to
This is
serve.
more like it. Finally.
I'm in luck. These graves were dug recently. Arise in the name of the Lich King.
At last.
Our forces are under attack.
Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Tread lightly. At last. Speak, fool. No one orders me around. Speak, fool. No one orders me around. Speak, fool. Finally. This is more like it. Finally.
My
What is
sight
it
is
now?
yours.
At last. This is more like it. Finally. At last. Finally.
Say your prayers. Bandits, run!
At last. This is more like it.
I shall be your eyes.
Speak, listen.
My sight is yours.
No one will listen. Tread lightly. What is it? Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it.
The damned
Finally.
stand ready.
Speak, fool. This is more like it. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Tread lightly. At last. What is it now?
Must be.
Speak, fool. No one orders me around. This is more like it. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Frostmourne hungers. You will know endless threat. Speak, fool. This is more like it. At last. For the Lich King.
I shall be your eyes.
No one orders me around.
Frostmourne hungers.
Only to serve.
Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers.
Mercy, my
Finally.
lord.
The damned stand ready.
Frostmourne hungers. This is more like
You
it.
should burn in hell.
This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This
The
is more
damned
like
stand ready.
The dead have risen again.
Frostmourne
Guards.
At
The damned
last.
stand ready.
Finally. At last.
Kill them all!
Mercy, my lord. The undead have returned.
This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. Finally. At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more
You've betrayed us all.
My life for Nezu.
hungers.
Help. The undead have returned.
This is more like it. At last.
Mercy, my lord.
Finally. At last.
I
Finally.
now stand ready.
This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. At last.
The dead have risen again.
Finally.
Guards.
This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. 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 Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. At last. Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers.
Our forces are under attack.
What is it now? At last. Finally. Speak, fool. What is it now? Speak, fool. This is more like it. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. No one orders me around. Finally. At last. Speak, fool. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Tread lightly. Speak, fool. At last. Finally. This is more like it. Tread lightly. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last.
My sight is yours.
No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This
The
is more
undead.
like it.
Sound the alarm.
At last. This is more like it. At last. Finally. At at last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally.
I live
At
only to
last.
serve.
Finally. At last. This is more like it. At last. Frostmourne hungers.
Well done, Death Knight. The cult is nearly assembled.
Lordaeron lies in ashes. What good are these cultists to us now?
They will aid you in your next undertaking.
And what's that?
You will go to Underhall and recover the remains of the Acolyte's former master, the necromancer, Kel'Thuzad.